So this is a lot of skateboards. And it's no wonder in this day and age that it seems to be getting harder and harder to know what board to choose, with board companies popping up left, right, and center. So to help narrow your choices down, what you need to know is that in this day and age, it's becoming less and less relevant what the board company is. So what most people don't know is that skateboard companies actually generally just choose their boards from a wood shop. So a wood shop is what we use to describe the place where all the decks are made. And in terms of the large brands, there's really only about 6 relevant wood shops or so where the vast majority of brands are coming from. So what most companies do is they send in their artwork for a graphic and they pick a shape from a catalog from the wood shop. Very few companies actually have the leverage to dictate and design new shapes. So the first thing we're going to do is, instead of looking at this overwhelming stack, I'm going to divide them all into wood shops so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So I have 7 stacks here, which all indicate the wood shop that each of these companies come from, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I also want to direct you to the Slap Woodshop thread. So you can find this in the description below. This is a great resource for finding out where your boards are coming from. Now, it's not always accurate. It changes from time to time. Companies change from time to time. Some companies are really secretive about what wood shop they use, and others really like to openly proclaim which wood shop they use because it's sort of a badge of pride. But on the Slap Woodshop thread, there is actually about 13 wood shops mentioned. And so this is actually a rabbit hole of information that you can start to go down, but I find it very useful for helping when I want to decide to buy a deck. So let's start looking at these stacks. So this first one I have is a Santa Cruz deck. This is one of Ted's models. So this is 12 years old, so this deck isn't totally relevant. But then I also have a Louis Barletta Enjoy deck. So these are both made in the DSM wood shop in China, especially if you start looking at some of the Resin 7 or the Impact Plus decks. And that one is known to produce actually pretty decent quality decks. The next stack I have to the left of me, which one is this? This is the one that I have the most decks from, and this is Bareback Generator. So Generator is the distributor and Bareback is the wood shop. And so these are all generally Mexican press from what I understand. So we've got the Theories deck that I rode. We've got the Real deck that I rode. We've got the Friendship deck that I rode. Birdhouse has their decks pressed at Bareback. Primitive is Bareback. Crooked is Bareback. Now let's get one thing clear. A lot of people seem to think Deluxe makes the best wood. Bareback makes really good decks for Deluxe, who distributes Real, Crooked, Anti-Hero, Spitfire, Thunder, and probably a clothing brand or something. Oh, and one thing I also want to mention, one of the reasons I have the most decks in this is my favorite wood shop. All of my favorite decks with the best reviews are coming from this wood shop.
Here the worker is sending the veneers through a glue spreader. We use a PVA glue that is water-based. We would never use an epoxy or toxic chromium-based catalyst, like most of our competition. The glued veneers are stacked on the back side of the spreader, floorboards high. Our decks are cold pressed, which ultimately makes the strongest board.
So now let's get to the next most popular one. So this was not in order of popularity. So the next most popular one is PS Sticks. So Paul Schmidt, most of you guys have heard of. Some of you, maybe.
So my name is Paul Schmidt. In the world of skateboarding, I'm known as Professor Schmidt.
Plan B is pressed by Paul Schmidt in Mexico. Toy Machine is pressed by Paul Schmidt in Mexico. Now, one thing you want to consider also is when you're buying the price point decks, so the ones that aren't pro models, a lot of the time those are pressed in China and sold for cheaper. So those are not the high quality boards you're going to get from Mexico. They're going to be price point decks for kids to buy at a skate shop, like at Zoomies or something. So these are good decks. They are not my favorite. I do like the stuff that comes out of Bareback better. It's stiffer and I just like it better. So personal preference. Anyways, let's get to the next stack. So here we have 2 Made in America brands because this is coming from South Central, which is a wood shop out of Alabama. So, Solace of Mind. Looking forward to riding this deck. And we have this politic deck that I didn't like, but I'm going to get into in another video someday. But they're known to produce really good quality boards. Next stack, what do we have here? This is Clutch, or ASF is another name for the wood shop, and they just did the deck for my latest review. But they also do Bruharia, which is this one, which I'll be trying soon. This is my latest reviewed one, the blank. And then I've got another one that I'm currently riding that you guys haven't seen. And Clutch, I'm finding, is solid wood. I'm pretty impressed with the quality of their wood. I've never tried to order a bunch of decks and the artwork that goes with it, but they're pretty decent. And they are pressed in Mexico, I think. I don't know everything. Okay, so let's get to another stack here. The next one that I have quite a lot of boards from, so this is my stack from before I started the channel. I used to ride Crale Tap wood almost exclusively. So Crale Tap is the distributor for Girl, Chocolate, 4-Star, and Royal, and Lakai. So I have not ridden their stuff for a while because, unbeknownst to me, for the last decade, they were some of the worst quality boards out there. And now every time I do this, I get some serious hate comments, but we got to be honest. So they were producing some of the worst quality boards out there. Apparently, they are now actually producing better quality boards, but I have not tried one yet, so I can't confirm that firsthand. I actually tried somebody's at the skate park yesterday, and it felt stiff. It didn't feel like the old girl would at all. So, anyways, let's see what we have here, though. We have a Girl, Sean Malto. This is from the old wood, and this one gave up after about 2 or 3 days. It started creaking and flattening out, so that's the typical Crale Tap wood I'm used to. And you know, we're gonna have to get some confirmations from people in the comments, or I just have to actually buy a new one to test the wood out myself and see if it's actually any better. Because I mean, a lot of those guys from Crale Tap are some of our favorite skaters from way back when, and it was really disappointing to see them choose profits and low quality over giving good service to their customers. That was disappointing, and I had a lot of hurt feelings about that for a long time. So hopefully they're making better boards and we can have a little more faith in their company again. What else do we have here? Yeah, a Chocolate. These are all lightly used because I just didn't like them. They give up too soon. This Justin Eldridge that I liked, that I did the first review on in, actually this was like my second deck review, and I gave it a really positive review because I didn't know much about them yet, but it didn't last long. It was like 2 weeks and then it was soggy and I had to move on to another deck. A deck should last 3 weeks to a month of heavy skating from somebody like me. So I wanted to make a video about wood shops. Where does your deck come from? People need to know that the companies that they buy stuff from, basically they're in charge of putting art on a deck that they choose from a wood shop. And then they go and pay a bunch of pros to try and market the product to you. And it's interesting times for the skateboard industry right now. It's a lot like what happened when Napster came in and destroyed the music industry. Right now we've got tons and tons of tiny brands and all this information, and it's kind of just, it's just bleeding the skateboard industry, for better or for worse. We'll have to wait and see. But one thing is for sure, change is happening. And change in the way we consume skate media, I mean, the fact that you're even watching my channel is evidence of that. Change in the way that they're marketing boards to us, everything is changing in the skate industry. Anyways, that's a lot of talking about skateboarding. I want to do a little riding some skateboards today, because that's what this channel is about helping you maximize your time on your board, whether it be with good products, good exercise, anything, just to get out there and have fun. So thanks for watching. Let's get a little skating in. I'm loving this Clutch deck, actually. I'm down to a 31.5 with a 14-inch wheelbase, and all of a sudden all my tricks are feeling easier. But life is not all flat ground. Let's skate something else. That one caught me off guard. Let's try again. I don't have all day. And those are the first ones I've done in 15 years. The fact that I could put those back into my regular rotation, I'm pretty stoked on that. Shall we one last try it? I thought I'd surprise you. That was way more than one try though. That one though, however sketchy, was actually the first one in at least over a decade. Can't remember the last time I did that. Whatever, man. Getting those clean is a job for future Ben. Now I'm gonna do that super annoying thing where I hold the camera all vloggy and look and talk into it. Anyways, this is just to say bye. Now watch me fall. Ow, my bottom!